Good evening and welcome back to our weekly question and answer series for anash.org. We're going to continue on questions regarding Pesach. Question: is it allowed to be kavaya sida and matzah shmira, egg matzah, on Shabbos agudel? For the Shabbos sidas, this would avoid having to deal with chumutz and crumbs. Yes, a person has the option of eating for the Sa'uda Shabbos matzah Ashira, but you have to be kavaya sida, which is basically if you eat it for the Sida Shabbos, that means kavaya sida, and then you could wash on it. But you could only eat it till the zman of sov zman achilas chumutz. Although matzah Ashira is not chumutz, and there are some poskim which permit to eat matzah Ashira the whole day, because it's not chumutz, and it's not matzah, which you could be yoytze, the mitzvah achilas matzah, so therefore you could eat it after the sov zman achilas chumutz because it's not chumutz, and you could also eat it erev Pesach all day, although you're not permitted to eat matzah erev Pesach Medina, but since you cannot be yoytze the mitzvah achilas matzah Ashira, you could eat it the whole day. But the Alter Rebbe paskens that the minig is that we don't eat matzah Ashira after the zman achilas chumutz. We have a chashash maybe in the matzah which has eggs and fruit juice, might be also water, then it could become a chumutz. So the minig is that after zman achilas chumutz you don't eat even matzah Ashira. But the Sida Shabbos, which you eat in the morning, you could eat with matzah Ashira if this is what you desire, in order not to have crumbs and chumutz since you have children. Question: my self-cleaning oven has a glass as part of the door. Does the glass get kashered when the oven is on self-clean? The answer is a self-cleaning oven could be kashered if it goes through the whole cycle. A self-cleaning oven gets hot 880 degrees Fahrenheit. That's very hot. That's Libn Gummer. And since it's Libn Gummer, that's considered gekashered, and you could use it on Pesach. That means that's kashed also the glass and the door. But after all, since it is glass, and some poskim will say that it's not considered kashed because it's glass, so therefore it's kedai, you should cover it with silver foil. It should cover the glass and also the casket. Aber im Ikra din, if you have made a full cycle for an hour and a half till 3 hours, depends which oven, it is considered being kashered and kosher for Pesach. You don't need to knead it with an insert. But again, you should cover the door with silver foil, and also lechimra, you should also cover the shelf with silver foil. Question: about young couple renting from the parents for bedikas chumutz, which you mentioned last week. Why not just listen to the bracha from your father and then be a shliach to help through boidigs on the whole house? You're right, we don't need to do that. And as I mentioned last week, you don't need to rent that room. You could eat their chumutz and you don't have to be boidig at all. Your father could be boidig, and he is boidig for you b'shlichas. But we are talking about people who wants to do the mitzvah on their own, and they want to be mekayim the mitzvah, and they persist that they want to make the bracha. So therefore, I gave a solution by having your own chomutz and renting the apartment, but you don't need to do it. You could do like you wrote, and as I mentioned last week, you could be boidig yourself, and regarding the bracha, you should listen from your father or your father-in-law when he makes the bracha, and it's considered as you made the bracha, and you are makayim the mitzvah of b'dikas chumutz. It is only for people who dafka want to be boidig chumutz with a bracha. I gave that solution. Question: my elderly mother takes a vitamin prescribed by a doctor for eye care. He also recommends vitamin D3. Is this permitted during Pesach? You gotta check on the lists to see if it doesn't have chometz. If this vitamin has chometz, then you should try to get one which does not have chometz. Now, if it has kidneys, it's not a problem, because when it comes to things which you eat not the regular way, and you take it to strengthen your health, and it doesn't have a good taste, for instance, vitamins, we are Michael in kidneys. But when it comes to chometz, since it's only a vitamin, then we are not Michael, and you should try. There's vitamin D3, which is approved by the organizations, which has a hechsher. So therefore, you should make sure it isn't chometz. When it comes to medication, also again, if you have one which is not chometz, it's preferable. But if you need to take a medication and you don't have it only which is chometz, and since it doesn't have a good taste, you could take it and you should take it. A person which takes medication for heart or other serious disease, if he could have a medication which is not chometz and it's approved by his doctor, then he should switch to a medication which has not chometz. If he doesn't have one which doesn't have chometz, or even if he does, but the doctor doesn't recommend it for him, because sometimes changing medication could be dangerous, he could take the regular medication, even though it has chometz in it, since it's shluch, and he shouldn't be from, because every year we hear all kind of people who got sick and went into the hospital because they didn't want to take the medication, which is very important for them to take, because of it has chometz. Now, follow up to that question before regarding vitamins. A person which takes vitamins in order to boost his immune system, like vitamin C or zinc, and he takes it now because it's still, we are in a pandemic time, yes, he could take the medication, these vitamins. He should, again, as I mentioned before, make sure it shouldn't have chometz, it should only be kidneys, and you have zinc and vitamin C, which is only kidneys, and he could take it, and he should take it if he's afraid of getting COVID. Question: besides gebroks and rice, which other food does Chabad refrain from eating on Pesach? Okay, this is a little bit a complicated question, because it's very hard to say general what Chabad refrains, because there are menhugim which Chassidim do, and not necessarily the Rebbe did. For instance, a lot of Russian Chassidim and families, Lubavitch Chassidim, which came from Russia, refrain from eating anything which is dairy. And even though it was made before Pesach, they're still refraining from eating it. But we know that the Rebbe Nishmusa and the Rebbe Rashab and our Rebbe, the Rebbe did not refrain from drinking milk on Pesach. So we see there are things which Chassidim are makpet, because that was the thing which was mekibel in Russia, but not necessarily you could say it's a minig Chabad. But nevertheless, we'll go through things which we do see that we should refrain from eating. The first thing is we don't drink mashke on Pesach. Even though it's made kushel Pesach, we don't drink mashke on Pesach, except of wine, kemuven. And the Rebbe brings it down in the Rishimas that the minig is you don't drink mashke. The same will go also to other foods. For instance, cinnamon and ginger. The Rebbe writes in Agoda that the last couple of years we don't put this into the charoisas because of a chashash of chomot. So as at least we know that ginger and cinnamon is a thing which minig Chabad we don't eat. Radish we don't eat. We know that the Rabbi Tzemach Tzedek said it's also to eat radish. He did not give a reason, but since he said it, so therefore that's the minig of Chabad. We don't eat radish on Pesach. Things which was processed out of your house, you refrain from eating it on Pesach. We know the Alter Rebbe said, and it's brought down in Hayom Yom, that Pesach we are not mechabat someone else, a guest, with eating and drinking. We don't offer them food, and the reason is because everyone has his own chumrah on Pesach, and therefore we don't offer them food. If he wants to take, he can take, but we don't offer them food. So we see that there's such a thing as we shouldn't eat anything from the outside. Now, saying you shouldn't eat anything which is outside, only which you made at home, it's impossible in today's day. Because people buy wine, grape juice, matzahs, and all kind of things which was made not in the house. Once upon a time, in the old days, everybody made their stuff at home. But now, you have to buy something from outside. But the ikar nekida of the chumrah is you shouldn't buy anything which was processed. So processed food goes through a processing system, and over there could be all kind of chashoshes. So this we don't eat. But of course, you could purchase wine and matzah and things which was not processed. So this is also one of the chimras, which is a minig Chabad, that we don't eat processed food from the outside. Another chimra which we see is food which fell down on the floor. We see it not only by food, even utensils which fell down on the floor is the minig that we put it aside and we don't use it that year Pesach. And of course, food, if once it fell down on the floor, you shouldn't eat it on Pesach, because you're always scared maybe there was a drop of chomotz on the floor and it stuck to the food or to utensils, and therefore we don't use it. Now, even though utensils you can wash it off, but the chimra is that you shouldn't use it. Now for children, a lot of people are makel that you wash it off and you give it to eat for them. Not the food, the utensils. Because if not, when it comes middle of Pesach, you might stay without utensils at all. But an adult should be machmar that anything which fell down on the floor, kalim, or food, you shouldn't eat and keep it till after Pesach. Another thing which is a chimra which we are machmar is that any food which you cannot peel, any fruits, vegetables you cannot peel, you don't eat. That means you only eat food, fruits, vegetables which you could peel. If you cannot peel it, then you don't eat it on Pesach. Even lettuce, there are some people which won't eat all Pesach lettuce only for Morer, by the Leila Seider. But during Pesach they won't eat it. But this you could be makel, because if you take off the other layer, the outer layer of the lettuce, so it is as if you took off the shell, and then you can eat it. But again, this is also a chimra which is brought down in Menhug Chabad, that you should peel all the fruit and vegetables which you eat on Pesach. When it comes to sugar, so we know that once upon a time in Chabad they didn't eat anything which had sugar. The Rebbe Rashab was very machmir on it, and even the Rebbe did not eat food which had sugar. And there are some Chassidic Chabad which are machmir on this. But we know that the Rebbe said, it's brought down in Hamelech B'Msiboy, that if he doesn't know if this is a Heiru al Ram, that means it's a thing for the public. And the Rebbe adds on, especially if a person knows for sure that has no Chashash Chomas, I don't see any reason he should be a machmir. So when it comes to sugar, you could be lenient because the Rebbe himself says that he doesn't know it's a rule Arab. But nevertheless, there are Hasidim which are machmir, they do not eat sugar, only when they cook it before Pesach and make it into a liquid. So then they're more lenient, because mitzad halacha lach is much more, I think, which is a liquid, is much more easier before Pesach than a thing which is dry. When it comes to garlic, some say that it's a minig Chabad not to eat garlic. This is a thing which is mentioned still in the Poiskim, and there's a lot of families of Anash which do not eat garlic. But I saw lately brought down that Harav Lando, Rabbi Yankiv Lando, the Rav of Bnei Brak, writes that this minig was not a Lubavitch, Sheba Lubavitch. But nevertheless, a lot of families do refrain from eating garlic on Pesach. When it comes to preparing water before Pesach, for the whole Pesach, that wasn't the minig Chabad, and we don't need to do it. If a person has this minig, he shouldn't change it. As we know the story that the Rebbe Rashab once said for one of the Chassidim, which he had this minig and he wanted to change when he became older. And the Rebbe Rashab says, although I don't do this minig, you started the minig, don't change it. But if a person did not start it, that's not a minig Chabad. But we do put a cloth or a strain, a thing to strain the water, that if Chas v'Sholom there's any tiny drop of chametz in the water, you put a piece of material which is made special for the faucet, in order that it should be mesanan the water. Question: if a person sold a suitcase which had chametz for a goy, and in the middle of Pesach he decided he wants to use the suitcase, may he take it out from the room which he sold for the goy and take out the chametz and use it? And the answer is no. He sold it for the goy, it belongs to the goy, and has inside chametz, and it's the goy's, and he shouldn't touch it. B'chlal chametz is osur to touch after it comes the man Asira, and therefore, if you don't, if you sold it for the goy with the chametz in it, you cannot use it at all. If it's clean, and you know it has no chametz in it, and it's only in a room which was sold for the goy, so we know we could take out ba'ofen aray, not on a regular basis, but if it happens once that you need to take out something and it's not chametz, you can take it out. That's one of the things which we are in the shtar mechiras chametz. But the thing which is sold directly for the goy because it had chametz, you don't take it out in the middle of Pesach. A person which has apartment together with a friend. His friend has one room, I have another room, and the person cleaned his room for Pesach, but his friend, his shutuf, his partner in the apartment did not clean his room for Pesach. What should you do about that? And the answer is, try to get in contact with your friend and ask him if he sold the chumetz, the room for a goy for Pesach. And if you can get in contact with him, when it comes before Pesach, you should sell his room, since he's not going to be there. Sell the room which has chumetz, which wasn't cleaned, sell it for a goy. As the Alter Rebbe writes, Shechanor, if a person has chumetz from other yid, and it comes before the Zman Isser, although it's not his chumetz, it's somebody else's chumetz, he can still sell it for the goy, because it's a schus for other yid that he shouldn't have chumetz on Pesach. So a person can do zuchen leudem when it's a schis for somebody else, you could do it for him. So since it's a schis that your partner in the room which forgot to sell the chumetz, or you don't know if he sold the chumetz for a goy that he shouldn't have chumetz on Pesach, you should sell it for the goy, and then you lock that room. You put on it a note, it's sold for Pesach, for the goy, and you don't have to do anything else. The same will go if a friend put by you in your house stuff, and you don't know if it has chumetz or not. You put it in a separate room, in a separate closet, and you sell it for the goy, and it's good to go. Question. I heard that there is a minhag by some ladies that they don't spill the wine by the Seidenach when they say the Dom Tzefadai Kinimurov. Is this so, or does the ladies do it, this minhag, the same as the man? I never in my life heard that ladies should not do this, and ladies do the same thing as the men are doing it, and they should keep on doing this thing. Question. If someone loses their taste and smell due to COVID, should they still be making a bracha on besumim during Havdalah? The answer is no. You cannot not make a bracha on boirim min besumim because it doesn't smell. Could he make a bracha berchas and hanem and alachilas matzah? Yes, he could make a bracha alachilas matzah, since there's a nuas ma'ayim. That means he gets nutrition from his food. He has a know of it. So a berchas and hanem he does make, but berchas havdalah he doesn't make. Okay, we're going to stop here, and please join us next week and send in your questions to inbox@anash.org, and have a wonderful week. Good night.